We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
President Joe Biden has a somewhat strife-filled relationship with the second largest superpower, China. From questions about his family business dealings to his confusing rhetoric compared to actions. But what to make of the mixed messaging, and how many fronts can the president battle his confrontations? Well, we're fortunate to have with us today former Principal Deputy Undersecretary of Defense Controller, a man who knows all things defense and Chinese, Mr. Dave Patterson. Thanks for being back with us, Dave.
Hi, Mark. Glad to be with you.
So, Dave, it seems to me that Biden is forever caught between a political rock and hard place when it comes to China. He has to appear firm publicly, but in terms of policy, we're getting a very different story. And I think that many people believe that let's say the US lunch is being eaten by chopsticks. What's your take?
Well, I think it goes to the fact that the Biden administration has a vague, obscure strategy to deal with China to begin with. When you look at their rhetoric, they call China a pacing challenge. I got to tell you, Mark, a pacing challenge is when you're out jogging with your buddy and he's making a faster time than you are and you're trying to keep up. That's a pacing challenge. China is a threat. And it also is doing a pretty good job of both psychological and geographical denying access to, for example, the South China Sea, Straits of Taiwan. And I think that it's just basic lack of a coherent strategy.
We see a lot about how each superpower is really trying to apply itself as let's call it an ally of people on the world stage. And we're seeing this in South America and most notably Africa, where Vice President Kamala Harris or I was going to call her President Kamala Harris and do a Joe Biden there. 6 times in February, I believe he called her President Harris, where she's gone in some way. I mean, it's claimed that she's gone to build up like a public announcement of empowering women in Africa. But really, it seems to me that it's trying to counterbalance China's economic sway in the region. But aren't we missing a trick with all the money that's flooding in from China? Is there any way to combat that without spending billions, perhaps trillions of taxpayer dollars?
Well, I think there is. And the Bush administration, managed to take American prowess and direct it toward real problems that the Africans are having, and really targeting specific places. For example, HIV was a huge success for the Bush administration. And looking at specific places to target your efforts, I think that the Democratic Republic of the Congo would be a good place to start. I know that there is a lot of concern about human rights, but they have a president now who is fairly well founded in the Catholic Church, and the Catholic Church there has a significant influence. And I think we could easily use the religious aspects to be helpful, and as well as being helpful to ourselves in terms of establishing some sort of presence. So I find it interesting that you should talk about the vice president. I mean, honestly, to have a conversation about the vice president with any sort of gravitas is just ludicrous. I mean, who would know she had left the country? Who would know that she was there?
Well, the one person who is fully aware that she's there is British actor Idris Elba, who runs some kind of foundation in Africa. And I was reading a brief piece about him in The Hill recently, and he was asked, do you think Vice President Harris would be a good president? And he said, oh, of course she would. And I wonder how much attention he actually pays to American politics, because I think for people who do pay attention to politics and policy and political messaging as well, she's very much, I guess the term is a cipher. She hasn't really fulfilled any role other than fulfilling some kind of quota for Joe Biden when he promised to hire a woman of color for the vice president's role. Now, let's move on to Taiwan. You mentioned that there's some strategic issues in the Straits of Taiwan. And this week, the prime minister of Taiwan came to the United States and didn't receive a White House welcome. Now, this strikes me as strange, seeing as we hear all the rhetoric about how Taiwan is such an ally and how President Biden has come dangerously close to citing Article 5 of the NATO treaty with defending Taiwan, which of course isn't anything to do with NATO, saying that, you know, we're obliged to support our allies, being Taiwan. And yet, no White House visit, no pomp and circumstance. What's going on?
Well, I think that you have to put it in context. Taiwanese officials frequently transit the U.S. through New York to go to Central and South America on diplomatic or official visits, and so to really put anything more into that, to read anything more, I think is not accurate. And of course, the president of Taiwan is going to Central America, to Guatemala and Belize, to shore up their Taiwanese presence so that they'll not jump ship as Honduras did recently in terms of diplomatic recognition of mainland China versus Taiwan. And I think that that's what she's principally looking forward to in terms of her visit to Central America. On the way back, however, she's going to stop through Los Angeles and spend some time at the Reagan Presidential Library with Speaker
Kevin
McCarthy. So that's going to be an important meeting
Mm-hmm.
for them. And probably more would be done with McCarthy than with, a presidential meeting with Biden, which he will probably forget, minutes later.
Of course, he will get the free ice cream, of course, that they reward him with whenever visiting dignitaries come to town. So there's also been quite a bit about TikTok, the social media behemoth at the moment, with the hearings about whether it's a threat or not to America. And it seems that this is quite a divisive issue between the parties. What's your take on it?
I think TikTok is an extraordinarily a huge threat to America. When you consider that an app that 150 million people have on their telephones is gathering information, personal, professional, financial, anything you have on your phone is now available to the Chinese Communist Party. I think that that's a threat, and it is designed to do that. I mean, it's not like it's an accident. The application is designed to gather and categorize information, and it does. And so I think that when your teenagers are chatting amongst their friends, that it's just not about their chat that's being accumulated and categorized. It's about everything on their phone, because that's what TikTok application does. It's an intrusive application that tells the Chinese where you are, what you do, what you buy, what you say, and what you text. And so consequently, the Chinese are becoming more and more intrusive into everyday Americans' life, and that is not a good thing for us.
Okay, and so what is the final defense position on China at the moment?
It's not a single point position, I think. I think there are those who are entrusted with having to meet the Chinese face to face, like commander of Indo-Pacific Command and the military service commands that are under Indo-Pacific Command. They have a very different view than the Biden administration in Washington, D.C., because they face them every day. They see them as a challenge that is a threat and not a pacing challenge. So, I mean, they're constantly talking about how to shore up U.S. defenses in the Pacific. And if you look at the budget, they're putting their money where their mouth is, and the budget for Indo-Pacific has been increased to make sure that the capability to meet and defeat China mischief is there.
Good to know. Dave Patterson, thanks ever so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me on, Mark.
We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides. Entertaining, informative, and just plain fun. Watch Liberty Nation's The Conservative 5. Produced by conservatives for conservatives. C5's The Left Free Zone. Hosted by Liberty Nation's Lisa K. Donner. Joined by a raucous, irreverent panel of authors. Deconstructing leftist narratives. Debating the hot topics. And remembering to laugh. Join the official conservative safe
You only
space.
did that to piss Jeff off.
Liberty Nation's The Conservative 5.